Hello there and welcome to episode 28 of Colonization Project. Right now we are unlocking experimental electrics before moving on to the first mission of this episode. This mission is I believe this is the Diamond Lathe Lander. And it has not arrived at Lathe yet, but it has arrived at Jool, and we need to get the spacecraft to orbit Jool. And to do that, we are performing the tried and tested way of doing a Tylo gravity assist around Tylo, obviously. And yeah, that's what we're doing right now. You can see we are flying past Tylo, and this is the first time visiting Jool in the series, and Jool and its moons, I don't think any other planet in the stock Kerbal system is quite as beautiful as Jool and its moons are. Like, especially from Lathe with like Spectra or something. It's just I really do quite like it. And then if you add the Outer Planets mod, then you have Sarnis and all the other gas giants. So, yeah, it's up to you to decide which one is better in terms of visual quality, Jool or Sarnis. But I'm not here to discuss that. I am here to discuss what we are doing. And we just finished the Tylo gravity assist. We are now plotting our course for Lathe. It won't arrive for a while, so I think we're going to return to it in the next episode, I believe. But anyways, right now we are returning to Opportunity, which has arrived at Duna. This is basically all the rest of the episode is going to be. It's just going to be us doing things around Duna with this neat little interplanetary spacecraft and lander. It's also occurred to me that we actually have way too many vehicles named Pathfinder, because that lander that you see right there is called Pathfinder. We have the Pathfinder shuttle, and then we have the Pathfinder rover that we sent a very, very long time ago to the Mun. It's still there. Don't worry, it's still there. However, it's not doing much right now. It's just sitting on the surface, waiting to be noticed by mission control. Anyways, we have arrived at... I just said that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename the lander probably to Sojourner, because, you might as well just go... Actually, no, Spirit sounds like a better name. We're calling the lander Spirit from now on. Although this will be the final time that this will be the final episode that we actually use the lander, so it doesn't really matter too much in the end. Because we're not bringing it back to Kerbin. We're saving on fuel a bit. And, why would we bring it back to Kerbin? I guess it would serve as like a nice souvenir for like a museum or something. But as you can see, as you will see later in the episode, there's not going to be much of it to be put in a museum. Although I will save that for when it actually happens. But anyways, we have arrived in low Duna orbit. Unlike the Eve mission, we are not going to Ike first. I'm saying we're not going to the moon of the planet first, but we're going to Duna first, because we want the first footsteps on another planet to be a big footsteps. Big footsteps? That's what... Big footsteps. And the footsteps are the same size on any planet, but, landing on Duna seems like... It just seems more fitting than landing on Ike first. And it's also why we haven't actually landed anyone on Gilly yet, because... it's not that much of an accomplishment if you're landing on a literal space potato. Anyways, we're getting the crew into the lander. The first Duna crew will consist of Jebediah, Bill, and Bob, the original 3, Valentina, and Herkin, I believe that's his name. They will both be staying on the spacecraft, researching away at the large amount of data that they have. Speaking of the science labs, we don't actually have enough electricity to run them. So in the end, I turned off the life support recyclers. And because of that, I think we're going to have just enough life support to get back. However, if it ends up looking a bit too slim, then I can always disable the science labs and restart the recyclers. And also, if the life support runs out, then it won't kill the crew, it will just make them not want to work anymore, which probably isn't the best thing because I'm not sure if we have a probe core on it. Fun fact, actually, I remember that I once did this giant interplanetary mission. I didn't record it, but I once did this giant interplanetary mission, and then it ran out of fuel on the way back. So I actually had to send up like a rescue mission to like have a bit to rescue the Kerbals and get them into an orbit, and then just leave the spacecraft floating in space. Hopefully that won't happen. Opportunity actually has quite a bit of fuel, unlike Sunset Star, which we'll have to send a rescue mission to. I think we're going to have enough fuel to get back with Opportunity. But anyways, we are doing the final descent, and we have landed. That's pretty cool. But anyways, we can we can start doing things like science on the surface. We didn't bring along any of the breaking ground science equipment, so we're not getting as much science as we can, but oh well, that's just a bit of extra mass. And this mission was built in like 2 minutes. I'm exaggerating there, but it didn't take very long to design this mission, and it shows off because we forgot a whole lot of things like solar panels, fuel margin. I didn't test any part of this mission. I think the only part of it that I did test was the rover deployment mechanism, which is actually kind of useless considering we only use the rover for like 2 minutes, and we actually need all the other things for it to function. The rover is completely optional. We really don't need it. But we do get a bit of science from it, and we can get all the Kerbals out and collect more science and plant flags. Jebediah will not be the one planting the flag because he has already had his chance to plant a flag. Rather, Bill is going to plant a flag because he hasn't planted a flag on like any new celestial body before. New type of celestial body because just new celestial body. Anyways, you just saw we were getting more science there. We can plant the flag and write a thing for the flag. After that, however, we can get the rover out and then drive it over there. I actually managed to land within 2 kilometers, which is actually quite impressive considering that, one, the lander was aerodynamically unstable, and 2, we're landing on an world with atmosphere. So I was quite happy with how close I managed to land it. Only 2 kilometers away, which actually isn't that bad. But you can see we have arrived, and you may notice we have 3 Kerbals, and that Mark II lander can only supports 2. You may be wondering how we're going to fix this, who we're going to leave behind. We're leaving no one behind. What's going to happen is that we get I think, yeah, Bob Kerman on the back, and he's just going to ride it like that. Probably not the most comfortable, considering Jebediah and Bill get the command seats. Although he is a scientist, so we're going to want to get him out more often than not. So, I mean, maybe he wants to be outside. Jebediah certainly wants to be on the inside because he's the one who needs to pilot it. Nobody can pilot things as well as Jebediah. I mean, maybe Valentina can. But you know, Jebediah's he's simultaneously the best and worst pilot on the surface of Duna at this moment. Because, well, he's the only pilot on the surface at this very moment. I'm not sure why Bill's inside. I'm not sure why Bob just can't like ride in like the back. Because if you've ever seen the IVA of the Mark II lander can, well, not really. It's not a lander can anymore. It's the rover can. Yeah, it's quite spacious actually. So I'm not sure why he can't just stand back there, but I guess Kerbal safety regulations and stuff. You have to be strapped in a seat in order to drive a rover. Anyways, we are now collecting some science from all the rocks around Duna. I managed to find 3 of them. 3 of the little surface features in very close proximity to the lander. So we picked a very good landing spot for landing. Also, you may notice that we are going above and below ground a bit. I probably talked about this in like episode 4 where we landed the rover on the Mun. Maybe that was episode 5. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's with parallax. However, I would rather have good ground textures than just have a bit of a visual glitch. By the way, the Duna parallax textures, they look really good, especially like all the like little tiny rocks you see zooming past. Yeah, I really like parallax. It's a really good mod. Anyways, we are now heading back to the lander where we can ascend to the surface after spending about a day or so on the surface of Duna. We're spending a day there because, you know, in real life, you wouldn't just instantly just take off again. Well, I mean, in Kerbal Space Program, you might as well spend more than a day on there because you might want to do like biome hops or something, but we don't have the fuel for a biome hop. Definitely not. So, we can also unlock orbital assembly while we're at it, and we can get all the Kerbals back into the lander. The footsteps did disappear, but maybe that was the wind or something. But yeah, it's anyways, we are getting the Kerbals back into the lander, and we are spending about a day here, like I said. We actually witnessed a few dust storms on the planet, which I think is a really cool thing that environmental visual enhancements can do. Like, it can create dust storms, which really adds to like the, excuse me for the pun here, atmosphere of the planet. Yeah, you can also see the sunsets here are not red or orange or any other color that sunsets here on Earth are. They're actually blue, because of like carbon dioxide and stuff. Anyways, I actually managed to get a couple really good screenshots of this because we're like sitting in the middle of like this canyon, and also like you see Ike just hanging in the distance. So you might set up a base here because with USI planetary logistics and stuff, you actually don't have to set up a base near resources. So really the priority becomes setting up the base in what is probably the coolest place on the planet you can find, which I find really cool because it allows you to search out the spot where you where it looks the best. However, we are now ascending into orbit in a dust storm. Hopefully the guidance computers can take care of that. But if the guidance computers fail, then Jebediah can certainly fly it himself. I mean, all you have to do to avoid the dust storm is just go up until the dust is no more. I'm sure it's not that hard. Anyways, we're now rendezvousing back with the main spacecraft, and yeah, you can also see, if you remember the old aerospike plume, yeah, I did a bit of tweaking on that. Apparently before, the aerospike was using both real plume and a waterfall configurations. However, I changed it just to use waterfall, so it's like more in sync with like everything. Because if you haven't noticed, most of the plumes in this series are waterfall plumes. The only things that aren't waterfall configured, obviously, are the solid rocket boosters, and you can't really do those with waterfall. Real plume does a much better job at solid rocket motors because it has those smoke effects and stuff. Anyways, enough talk about that. We have now arrived at the main spacecraft Opportunity, and now we can head up to Ike, which is I mean, it would be kind of useless not to go to Ike, right? Because, you know, it's just more science to be gained there, be gained, and we have enough fuel to do it. We have enough fuel in main spacecraft to go to Ike, so there's really no point in not going there. Anyways, we are now heading up there because of what I just said, because why not? And we are now, yeah, not much to talk about here. Really not much to talk about. Yeah, I mean, this episode, if you really look at it, can be a bit boring because we're only doing like 3 things in this entire episode. We did the gravity assist around Tylo. Then the rest of the episode is just Opportunity and Duna and Ike. So yeah, not that many events happening in this episode, but we are doing a lot of important things in this episode, like going to Duna. We will actually be landing the crew of Sunset Star on Gilly in the next episode, I believe. And that episode's a bit... I can talk about things in that episode a bit more because I think I'm almost done editing it, so I should maybe be able to get it out soon. I'm doing the air quotations thing. Maybe I'll be able to like get it out soon or later. For some reason I paused the game for a while there. Not entirely sure why, because I recorded this way too long ago. I actually have quite a significant amount of excess footage I need to edit and then record and then all that. Because I've not been editing and recording things very lately. Mainly because I said this in the last episode, but I'm still playing Factorio, and yeah, you can probably tell why there hasn't been an upload for 2 weeks now. But there is a new upload now. That's pretty good. I managed to actually find the time to record an episode. Yay. Anyways, we are now landing on Ike. The crew of the Ike landing is Hurricane Kerman, Bill Kerman, and Valentina Kerman. Bill Kerman's here because he's the only engineer on board, and we might as well have an engineer on board anyway. I think we do actually need him. You can see we almost crashed there. We almost crashed. However, I managed to pitch up in time, and we hit the ground a little too hard at a bit of an inconvenient angle. We managed to flip over, break one of the solar panels, but thankfully we managed to upright the entire vehicle. The crew will not be staying on the surface for as long because, Duna, you have an atmosphere. You get to watch like the weather patterns and stuff. Ike, it doesn't have an atmosphere. I mean, it may have an exosphere or something, but definitely not anything of note. So, yeah, they won't be spending as long here. And also they have much more urgent matters on their hands, like running out of fuel. We don't have enough fuel to get back into orbit of Ike. However, we do have a bit of monopropellant. And with monopropellant, you can do great things. Well, with monopropellant and a stripped down lander. With that, you can do great things. But we planted the flag, and then we can get Hurricane Kerman out to, pick up a big rock or something. Not sure how he fits that in his pockets. Not entirely sure. Maybe it's like some maybe that's what they use the mystery goo for. Just disobeying the laws, the physical laws of the universe, and managing to what is the mystery goo? I guess it's really not supposed to be known because it's mystery goo. Why else would it be called mystery? But yeah, where does the mystery goo come from? And there's just so many questions to be asked about Kerbal Space Program mystery goo. It's a really strange substance. I wonder. I should probably talk about the video. You can see we disassembled a lot of the parts on the lander. You can see we are disassembling all the science equipment, landing legs, even one of the engines, just so we can get a bit of extra fuel in order for us to get back into orbit. And once the final engine has burnt all of its fuel, what we can do is we can disassemble that engine and all the things that come with it. And then we can use the RCS, which actually has a decent thrust to weight ratio, which I was very surprised by. We can use that to get the final way into orbit. So thankfully we're not stranding anyone on Ike, which is good. We don't want anyone being stranded on Ike. If they were stranded on Duna, that would be a bit better, but also not ideal because we definitely didn't have enough fuel to do another Duna ascent and descent mission. So thankfully we're not stranding anyone anywhere yet. I'm not making any guarantees that I won't strand anyone ever. I'm saying we haven't stranded anyone yet. Hopefully we won't. I'm not trying to strand. Actually, no. Technically, if we want to colonize every planet, a colony is just a bunch of stranded Kerbals who have life support. So really, we already have stranded. I mean, they have a way back, obviously. But if we ever strand Kerbals on another planet, then boom, makeshift colony. You can also see there, it's pitch black. You can only see the jets of the RCS firing. And that's because I think Scatterer makes the atmospheres makes the planets and everything around them really dark during eclipses. So yeah, you couldn't see anything, and I couldn't either. So yeah, not the best piloting. conditions. However, I'm sure Valentina Kerman can do that, and if she can't, then I'm certain like some sort of infrared sensors or something on the spacecraft can, because one does not simply build a spacecraft without guidance systems. Those are pretty important for lots of things like guidance and stuff. However, the lander is no more use to us. It's just a hunk of metal with some propellant in it. Very little propellant, mind you. And we can crash it into the surface very close to where we first landed it, returning from where it came or something like that. Although it didn't really come from Ike, it came from Kerbin. But you get the idea. However, after it explodes, I believe that will actually be the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.